With all of these vulnerabilities and the threats that can come from GPS, what should organizations do to protect themselves from GPS disruptions and to overall secure their systems?
And I would say, the number one thing in order for organizations to protect themselves against GPS disruptions and secure the systems would to take a kind of proactive and strategic approach by implementing, maybe an alternative redundant systems.
Mhm.
So avoid relying solely on GPS. If it has been used in a mission critical role, they could look to using alternative navigation systems such as terrestrial radio navigation systems.
Mhm.
So Nathan, terrestrial systems use ground based radio transmitters to
Okay.
provide positioning and velocity and timing, as opposed to GPS, which uses satellite-based navigation systems,
Mhm.
such as obviously signals coming from satellites. So the terrestrial radio navigation systems could be a way to provide particular avoidance, but there is obviously is an attack surface as well, but it's different from GPS. So that's one thing that they could consider.
Mhm.
Okay, I would say the second thing that they could incorporate and build into their cybersecurity profile is anti-jamming and anti-spoofing technologies,
Mhm.
and they could equip their critical infrastructure with receivers that provide anti-jamming capabilities and algorithms to detect and mitigate spoofing attacks. And this is somewhat, what we're doing here at LOCH with our AirShield GPS Canary system, is that we have the ability to look at anomaly behaviors and show if there's any jamming or spoofing going on. But the bottom line is, I would say step two is the ability to establish a baseline of normal signals and
Mhm.
behaviors and be able to alert on spoofing and jamming attacks. So the goal of the AirShield platform is to detect that kind of source of interference, and so having that in place, anti-jamming and detection capability in place would be good. And I think the third thing that I would recommend is that they could enhance the monitoring and detection capabilities.
Mhm.
Again, this is somewhat an area that we do at LOCH as well, where we protect the GPS platform, and this gives the critical facility the ability to look for deviation of policies or unacceptable, maybe sources of interference that they can rely on. But basically, they could, look at, implementing, um, you know, contingency plans, whereby if they're looking at assessment tools, right, they could develop and test contingency plans, of course, whereby if there's an outage, they could have a kind of plan A, plan B,
Mhm.
kind of alternative. That would be good. They could raise awareness within their staff of GPS threats and risks, right? Educate them on the different sources of jamming, how to recognize them, how to deal with them, have that, emergency plan in place whereby they flip from GPS to a terrestrial network, potentially. And of course, continuous training and education on the
Right.
GPS attacks and spoofing and jamming, kind of new capabilities that are out there. Um, I would
Great
say
stuff.
customers could also collaborate with government and industry partners to see what other best practices are going on. The threat landscape is constantly changing. There's new attacks coming all the time. So again, conducting regular risk assessments would be good for organizations that are worried about, the effects of GPS within their environment, particularly if it is an airport or it's, emergency services. So pen testing,
Mhm.
running attacks specifically on GPS would be another good practice that they could implement. So that means they need to invest in cybersecurity a little bit so they can really identify some of the risks and threats. But overall, right, what I'm recommending is a GPS intrusion detection system,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
some of the mitigation techniques that they could particularly consider and look at, Nathan.
Yeah. Great answer, Gary. And as always, thanks so much for answering all my questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nathan. And talk to you soon. Bye-bye.